Today we commemorate and celebrate a life that passed quickly and ended far too soon. Andrew John Billett, or Andy, as he's referred to here, was the middle of three brothers, all born 2 years apart. Martin first in 1949, Andy second in 1951, and me, Stephen, in 1953. We grew up and were parented lovingly by Peggy and Arthur Billett in Ormskirk, not far from where this ceremony is being conducted today. We all three went to the same primary school, Greepy Hill, and Wigan Road Secondary Modern School. We enjoyed the annual family holidays in Cornwall and weekend trips away in our dad's car, visiting stately homes, ancient sites, and occasional sporting events. Andy was by far the most successful at school and certainly the better looking of the three of us. For his younger brother, he was the cool one and had cool friends, some of whom rode and maintained Lambretta scooters, Jeff Privilege, for instance. Once he gifted me a pair of oversized brown suede Chelsea boots with Cuban heels. I've no idea where he got them from, but I used to clump around the house wearing them despite them being several sizes too large, mistakenly believing that they made me look cool. Andy was also the brother who at school managed to avoid competing in the annual cross-country event that was mandatory for all of the students at the school. This required doing a circuit of the oval and then one of rough wood before returning to the school. However, somehow Andy avoided this indignity and participated as an observer, smiling nonchalantly as we all ran past the start and finishing line. How did he manage that? I never asked him and how he did that, and now, sadly, never will be able to. Once his coolness got me into trouble at home. The Sunday roast dinner at lunchtime was always a key family event that we were expected to attend, even as we began to socialize outside of the family. I recall Andy arriving home one Sunday morning just before lunchtime after being out all night. Sitting around the table, my mother, God bless her, referred to the hickey on Andrew's neck and asked him what it was. Without the slightest hesitation or change of expression, he replied, "Rope burn." This caused me to spray a mouthful of cauliflower across the table and was reprimanded for behaving in such an inexplicable way and sent to my room by my parents, who seemed to be unaware of what it was. Andy observed these unfolding proceedings with just a slight raised eyebrow. In the years after school, our diverse life journeys took us away from Ormskirk to a degree from each other. Martin pursued a career in hospitality, taking him first to Liverpool to study, and then to different parts of Britain, including North and South Wales. Andy joined the Merchant Marine, working for the Harrison Line out of Liverpool and sailing to the Caribbean and parts of Africa, as I recall. From these trips, he brought back gifts, including a large and highly decorative sombrero, cigarettes from America that were different than those sold in Britain, and also LPs that would not be found in any UK records shops. He then worked in Liverpool and Southport and other places not too far from Ormskirk. I did college in Manchester, then worked there in Wigan, London, before travelling to and ending up living in Australia. So beyond these early years, we have lived quite separate lives, not out of any antipathy, but separated by circumstances. Andy met Kathy through a friend of her flatmate, Anne, who knew some of Andy's mates. Not one to be overly demonstrative, he surprised my mum and dad one day in 1975 by asking them if they had any plans for the 24th of May, which was coming up very shortly. The way my mother tells the story was that she asked why, to which Andy simply replied, "Because I'm getting married," and then proceeded up the stairs to his bedroom. But as the years and decades rolled on, we have our different lives, and there have been many aspects of Andy's life that I did not know. So, who was Andy? It seems that Andy let the world ride in his eyes, so to speak. He was an observer who, rather than plunging in, engaged circumspectly, and then only for and with those who meant the most to him. He once described to me somebody in his neighborhood who did the opposite as being action man. But he admired achievement on its own terms, not self-promotion or from undeserved advantage. He referred to his old classmate, Jeff Cheetham, who had become successful by setting up his own business, firstly running a market stall in Ormskirk and then going on to build up his business. He also admired footballers, rugby players, and cricketers because of their personal talents and abilities. So the qualities I described as being cool as a young man manifested itself as engaging with the world in a personally conditional, calm, and respectful way. As a North Country man, understandably, he was skeptical of hubris and posers. Also, doubtless, he could have had a very different work life, but he made the choices of what he wanted to do and those that met his needs and what he believed right for him. Most importantly, he was deeply involved and admired by his family and close friends. And perhaps this is where his personal qualities were most exercised. Kathy states that he really liked people and they really liked him in return. She also jokes about how Andy's calmness counterpointed her own sometimes more animated and excitable demeanor. "Calm down, Kath. Calm down, Kath," was one of Andy's refrains, Kathy says. Sarah refers to having a dad who was a great friend, perhaps her best, and who would always engage non-judgmentally. David has a dad who also engaged with him as a friend and in an non-judgmental and supportive way. So his two children greatly admired Andy's warmth, engagement, and unconditional and judgmental qualities. Certainly, he didn't want or like to be the center of attention, or projecting himself and seeking and demanding acknowledgement. Quite the opposite. When he became unwell, he would quickly shift our phone conversations from being about him onto others. Having provided the briefest of updates of his health, he would quickly divert the conversation to, "Yes," he would say, "but how are you going?" Kathy witnessed firsthand how well he dealt with the indignities, discomforts, and trials of ill health and treatments as a patient in calm, resilient, and uncomplaining ways. Others have commented that they could not have been so circumspect and behaved in such a way under those circumstances. So he didn't like to be the center of attention, and indeed, Andy probably would be uncomfortable with how he is being described here and want the conversation to shift onto others. But today, he does not have that choice. So what can we learn from and finally say about Andy? In an era dominated by ubiquitous social media influencers and commentators, Andy Cut's a very different figure. That is somebody who exercised himself quietly, calmly, and non-judgmentally with those with whom he knew and loved. He always spoke warmly and lovingly about Georgia and Tommy and of Sarah's care for them. They are great kids, and Sarah as being just great as a parent. This was a father and grandfather's unreserved affection and love, not boastful hyperbole. So we've lost a loving husband, father, grandfather, and brother all too soon. So farewell, Andy. You lived your life, made contributions where they mattered, and to you, and found fulfillment in doing so. You go on your journey knowing that those who meant the most to you think the most of you. Farewell.